Millions of smartphones roll off production lines every year, proudly carrying a Made in India stamp. It looks like total domestic dominance, but peek inside the factory and you'll notice something crucial. These workers are actively piecing together existing parts. They are assembling the phone, not actually manufacturing it from the ground up. If you take that device apart, you'll find that its highest value organs, the printed circuit boards, the camera modules, the intricate display screens, almost entirely come from abroad. And at the center of it all sits the semiconductor chip. This tiny silicon grid is the absolute necessity for modern technology, and right now, India imports millions of them to keep its assembly lines running. Snapping foreign parts together certainly creates local jobs, but it leaves the country's technological heartbeat entirely dependent on overseas suppliers. This visualization shows how reliance on imported components extends well beyond your phone. Critical future-facing sectors like electric vehicle battery cells, solar panels, and the active ingredients in pharmaceutical medicine all balance on that exact same foundation of foreign imports. This data highlights the staggering scale of the vulnerability. In a single recent year, India's import bill with China alone hit $132 billion. For decades, the global economic consensus encouraged exactly this. The rule was cost efficiency. If another country could produce a component a few cents cheaper, it made economic sense to buy it there rather than build it at home. Then the system cracked. The COVID-19 lockdowns, followed rapidly by the Russia-Ukraine war, proved that cheap imports are entirely useless if you can't physically get them across borders during a crisis. Even highly localized conflicts like the recent disruptions in the Red Sea demonstrated how quickly physical bottlenecks can sever global shipping lanes overnight. Outsourcing your core industrial components is no longer viewed as a clever cost-saving measure. When a crisis hits, that reliance becomes an immediate threat to national security. To fix this, India is rolling out a sweeping policy known as import substitution. The premise is simple. Identify what you absolutely must have and start making it yourself. This grid visualizes the specific scale of the initiative. The government has analyzed its trade data and flagged 100 critical, unavoidable products. Currently, India imports $51 billion, roughly 5 lakh crore rupees, worth of these specific items every single year. The new target is to manufacture all of them on home soil, which raises an immediate question. If producing these items is highly profitable, why haven't Indian companies just been building them all along? This map comparison shows why geography is the main hurdle. In China's industrial hubs, a factory can source plastics, motors, and packaging from suppliers located just a few kilometers away. In India, those exact same raw materials are scattered thousands of miles apart across different states. When your supply chain looks like a tangled web, it drastically inflates logistics, electricity, and finance expenses. For a private company, dealing with this friction makes building a local product far more expensive than simply ordering it from overseas. There is also a severe technological gap. Fabricating solar modules or electric vehicle batteries requires highly specialized environments, precision engineering, and advanced automation that domestic industries have historically lacked. Building these highly complex supply chains from scratch is not something private companies can afford to do on their own. It requires massive coordinated intervention from the state. India is deploying several tools to force this ecosystem into existence. First are production-linked incentive schemes. Instead of handing out cash for empty factories, the government pays subsidies based directly on the actual number of goods rolling off the assembly line. Next, to close the technology gap, India is actively encouraging joint ventures. By partnering with advanced manufacturing nations like Taiwan, South Korea, and Germany, domestic firms can quickly import the high-end robotics and fabrication methods they need. The government is also acting as a guaranteed buyer. Because these new domestic goods will initially cost more to produce, the state commits to purchasing them upfront, completely removing the financial risk for unproven manufacturers. Finally, they are tackling the physical distance. Megaprojects like the PM Gati Shakti initiative and dedicated industrial corridors are being built to slash domestic transport times and unify that fragmented map. This is a deliberate blueprint to engineer self-sustaining industrial ecosystems from the ground up, rather than just subsidizing a few isolated factories. Zoom out, and you'll see that India is not making these moves in an isolated, protectionist vacuum. The United States is aggressively pulling manufacturing back within its borders. Policies like the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act are designed to forcibly domesticate clean energy and semiconductor production. The European Union, Japan, and South Korea are deploying almost identical strategies, heavily incentivizing their own corporations to untangle their supply chains and diversify away from Chinese dependence. Achieving economic sovereignty through import substitution is now the standard operating procedure for every major global superpower. But executing this plan will be incredibly difficult. India faces a severe shortage of highly skilled technicians. There are looming trade disputes at the WTO, and ultimately, domestic goods still have to prove they can remain cost competitive in the long run. To replace the sheer volume of goods currently flowing through these ports requires a monumental scaling of physical infrastructure that could take decades to finalize. The true goal here is a painful, necessary transition. It means moving past the comfortable illusion of assembling foreign parts and turning the self-reliant India vision into a functional reality. Engineering $51 billion worth of domestic supply chains from scratch is a staggering challenge. But in a rapidly deglobalizing world, learning to build your own technology is an absolute necessity for survival.